Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation. I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave. Creating a bot with Azure Bot Service. A bit about me. I'm Keith Atherton. I've been a software developer and solutions architect for over 20 years. I've worked for various companies and sectors in the UK and USA, and I'm now based in Edinburgh in Scotland. I'm also a LinkedIn Learning instructor and Power Apps super user, amongst other things. If you've got any questions at all, I'm always happy to help. Just feel free to connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. This session is part of the SciFiDevCon event, and a big thank you to Brian Gorman for organising it. Please check out the other sessions after this one. So, this session on Azure Bot Service, the reason for using bots and the case for them is really, as quoted by Microsoft, that in today's connected world, people do use a variety of technologies such as voice calls, online chat applications and email to contact organizations. We can see in the example there in the screenshot that organization has their postal address, phone number and email on the website, as well as some links to their social media accounts too. And there are many other options available as well to contact organizations. Sometimes it can be for a quick query, it could be opening hours or a menu or something like that. Sometimes it's a bit more involving. Hey, I want to arrange a meeting, or I wonder if you could help me with a certain service, and it's a bit more of a discussion. So bots can be really useful for this, and organizations are often turning to using bots which use AI to kind of automate things like a first line support to answer these quick simple questions, or to redirect them to the right resource. So you can see the example there where it says, hi there, I'm an Azure chatbot, I'll connect you to the right resource, and there you've got some menu options that will help guide the user to that specific resource. Sometimes it's a bit more open-ended and just chat, and that's what we'll be looking into today. The great thing with bots as well is that we've got this conversational AI. It's a bit more human-like and not quite so robotic, which can make it easy to connect with and make it quite nice to deal with natural language as such. So in the example we can see there is, hi, I'm the Datum support bot. How can I help you? The couple of things that are really good about this is, one, that's quite a natural human-like language. It's not too robotic, not too formal. The other good thing as well, and we'll come on to this later on, is that the support bot there is being open and transparent that it is a bot that you're dealing with. It's not trying to pretend that it's going to be a human. It's very open, very transparent. And we'll come on to that and some other responsible AI guidelines later on in this session. If this subject, bots and AI, is of interest, there's a few things in recent years that have been in the news, and it really has evolved very, very quickly over time. It seems to be moving at a very fast pace at the moment. One of them is about Google's Lambda AI, and there was some testing of this AI by one of Google's engineers who was asking it some big, heavy questions about life, death, being turned off and things like this. And this engineer was so convinced by the AI that he believed it had become sentient, and that it was now a living thing, and it's got wants that should be respected and so on. So it can be quite convincing to people, this type of technology, and it's quite an interesting subject. So if you do have an interest in this, it is worth looking into that article. Another thing that was in the news fairly recently was Meta's chatbot, their chatbot called BlenderBot, and Meta, who own Facebook. They'd actually developed this chatbot and then reached out to the BBC and gave them access to use this bot, just so they could test it and report on it. Now, when the BBC did this, it came up with some of these kind of conversations here where the BBC were asking questions about Meta's manager, Mark Zuckerberg, and the opinions from the bot, they weren't always too complimentary, and it was quite an interesting thing. I'm sure most technology isn't perfect, it keeps evolving, but it was quite interesting. How did it come to these opinions? What data did it use? There's so many things to consider with these bots. So again, if this subject's of interest, I'd highly recommend looking into that in the news. And also, many of us are going to be well aware of ChatGPT, which has been in the news a lot recently. Now, ChatGPT, this was actually released only in November 2022, and in the few months it's been around, it's been in the news a lot. So GPT refers to it's a generative pre-trained transformer. And GPT-4 is now available. That's the latest one at time of writing, and there's been many users of it. Some of them deemed controversial, some of them not. Some people using it to help them pass exams, or to take tests for them, or to write blog posts or write code. There are many different uses. You can even feed in code or articles and ask it to spot mistakes or make corrections or comment the code. So there are many use cases for ChatGPT, and if you haven't yet tried it yourself hands-on, it is freely available at the moment. I'd highly recommend getting hands-on and having a play with it. It's really, really powerful. But what we're going to look into today for Azure Bot Service are two services really. The first is going to be a knowledge base, and this will contain the question and answer pairs, almost like an FAQ, and that will actually contain the built-in natural language processing, or NLP, model as well. And then the second service that we need is the Azure Bot Service, and this will provide an interface to that knowledge base which we previously create, and this will allow us to deploy that to one or more channels. Today we'll just look at one, a web chatbot, but it is possible to connect to multiple channels. It could be different social media platforms, email, even voice calls if we need. So first up, we're going to look at Azure Cognitive Services, and that umbrella really covers many services such as speech, language, vision, decision, and Azure OpenAI service. Today we'll look at the language service. And also the second one is the Azure Bot Service. So this is an integrated development environment where you can build these bots. You can also deploy them to multiple channels, as we touched upon. So based on the logos that we can see there, we can see things like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Skype, even things like SMS messages and voice calls as well. So really, really powerful. So a few quick mentions before we carry on with the demo. First up really is QnA Maker. This was a Microsoft service that was previously used as almost like an all-in-one place where you could go to QnAMaker.ai. You could use it to build, train and publish a bot all in one place using FAQ pages, which again have these question and answer pairs. You could use support websites and so on. It could scrape all that information and provide it as a bot. It was really, really powerful. This has since been deprecated and it will be officially retired in March 2025, and you can no longer create resources on QnA Maker's site anymore. It's just a redirect to Azure Cognitive Services, which is where everything is now held going forward. So if ever you see this in an article or previous video elsewhere, this is what QnA Maker refers to. And the other quick mention I'll give as well is to Power Virtual Agents, or PVAs. Now these are part of the Microsoft Power Platform, which also consists of things like Power Apps and Power BI. The great thing with the Power Platform, it's a great collection of low-code and no-code services which help technical and non-technical people easily build things together, almost like Lego blocks. You can just grab things off the shelf, bolt them together, connect them quite easily and very quickly. And you can also extend them further. You can use code components and other integrations and APIs and actually build quite advanced, sophisticated things as well if you choose to. But PVAs are a really good option if you need a quite authored workflow in a bot, if you've got specific questions, specific menus you want to offer a user, and certain solutions and answers you want to provide. So you can see in the main screenshot there, it provides a low-code graphical interface. You can build up this workflow with branching, conditional logic. You offer this question to the user. If they select yes, go down this path. If they select no, go down this path. If they ask this, offer them 3 options in a menu system. It's really very powerful and very intuitive and easy to use. So if that's of interest, I'd highly recommend looking into that as well. So what we'll do with the demo today, to get started, we've got these two two things to do. So first up, we'll create the custom question answering knowledge base. To do this, we'll provision a language service in the Azure portal. We'll define the questions and answers. We'll actually use an FAQ web page for this. Within this, we can actually test that knowledge base just to ensure it behaves as expected, and then we can go on to use that knowledge base. And then second up, we're going to build a bot with the Azure Bot Service. To do this, we'll create a bot using the knowledge base that we previously create. We can extend and configure the bot. We won't actually go into that today, but I will mention a few options available for how we can do that. And then we can go ahead and connect channels. What we'll do today is look at a web chat bot and create just a very basic page that hosts this. But again, as mentioned, you can connect this to many things, whether it be Microsoft Teams, Alexa, and so on. All right then, let's do the live demo. Okay, so let's get started. First up, we're going to go to the Azure portal, which is portal.azure.com. So make sure you're signed in, and the first thing we're going to go and do is create a resource. This will be the language service. We want this one here by Microsoft. We'll go ahead and create. And the great thing with language service is that we get many default features out of the box. So things like sentiment analysis, key phrase extraction, and so on and so on. What we also want to do is add a custom feature. So this one, the custom question answering, is going to help us with the bot that we're looking into today. So we'll go ahead and select that too. And then we'll go ahead, continue. Okay, now we're going to start to add some of the information for this resource. So the subscription for me is pay as you go. I'm going to go ahead and create a new resource group. I'll just call this, I don't know, RG-bot. I'm going to choose a region that's closer to me. So I'm in the UK. I'll go with UK South. We're going to name the service. I'll call it, I don't know, Lang FAQ bot. Let's see if that's unique. Yep, we're looking good. Okay, the pricing tier. There are a couple of options. There is free or standard. I'll go ahead with the standard for this one. We won't be using it for too long. Okay, scrolling down, we've got a search region. Again, I'll go with one more local to me. I'll keep it in UK South. There's an Azure search pricing tier. I'll just keep this free, which has got 3 indexes. But if you do expand this, you can see there are, other offerings that have more indexes that help with the searching. But I'll just keep the free one right there. Also, there's a responsible AI notice. There's some really important information here about, is there personal identifiable information, PII, is it text analytics for health, and so on. Really important stuff. We won't delve into that just now, but we'll go ahead and say that we've acknowledged that. Review and create. And then we'll go ahead and create the resource. Okay, that's the language service resource created. I actually went ahead and skipped forward just to save us some time, but for me the deployment took around 2 minutes. So the next thing we need to do is go to the Language Studio. And to do this, we go to language.cognitive.azure.com, make sure we're signed in, and then we get some information to enter. So first up, the Azure directory for me is default directory. The Azure subscription is pay as you go. The resource type in this case is language. And when we come down to resource name, when I select from the list, we've now got the language service that we just created. So I'll go ahead and select that and do done. And now we can go ahead and create a new project in Language Studio. So when you go to create new, there are a few options here, but in our case, we're looking at the custom question answering. So I'll go ahead and select that. So first up, we can choose the language setting for this resource. Now in this case, I want to set the language for all the projects. In this case, there'll only be one to the same one. So in this case, I'll go ahead and choose English and then next. we've got some basic information to enter. The language resource has been selected. We have a search resource that, again, we created previously. We'll give this project a name. I'll call this, I don't know, bot demo. You can enter a description if you wish. The language we've already selected to be English in every case. And this is quite handy as well. The default answer when no answer is returned. So if a user was to ask the bot a question it cannot answer, or something that wasn't very comprehensible, you can have some stock text that is returned. Now in this case the default is no answer found, but you can change it at this stage, or you can change it later on if you wish. So in this case I'll just leave it as it is. We'll go ahead and do next. Review all these settings and create project. And that's pretty quick. There we go, we've got our new project. Now this is the stage where we add the sources of information for these question and answer pairs. Now in this case we're going to go from an FAQ style web page, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. So in this case, this is an FAQ on the IMDb website for the movie 2001 A Space Odyssey. Clearly I just picked a movie at random there, could have been anything. But in this case we do have an FAQ full of question and answer pairs in a web page. So when we go ahead and click on one of these, I don't know, where is the room, we expand this, and then we have an answer just there. So if we scroll down the page, we can see actually, you know, there's a good bunch of questions here. There's a decent looking list. Here's one, is HAL a computer? We'll go ahead and look at this. The depiction of HAL 9000, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there's a bit of text going on there. We'll go ahead and use this page as one of our sources. So I'll go ahead and copy the URL. So now that we're back in the Language Studio, we can go ahead and add source. Now in a moment we'll be using URL, but just to go through some others as well, you could also choose files. You could point it to a PDF or a Word document or something like this. It could be locally or on a network. Another option, a good one, is chit chat, and we'll go ahead and take a quick look. Now chit chat, this is really useful if you want the bot to have a personality. So if you select chit chat, and we have a few languages available right here, you can choose if it has a professional, friendly, witty, caring or enthusiastic tone. And the way it does this, it's got some pre-built question answer pairs, things like greetings, or if you asked a question, or if you engaged in some small talk or said goodbye. These different personalities have responses that fall in line with these different personalities. So if you had a legal organization and it was quite professional and straight-laced, maybe a professional tone may be a good fit. If you had some caring or a certain type of charity or organization where you needed a caring tone, maybe caring could be useful there. You know, it could be helpful for when people are struggling or asking for help, or you know, they've got a certain a certain thing they want to ask. It could be a good option. Now in this case we won't choose any of the chit chat, but it's just something to be aware of. It could be useful. So I'll cancel. So again we're going to choose this URL, so I'll go to add source, URLs. We could add up to 10 at a time if we wish. We just have the one, so we'll go add URL. We'll give it a name, so this was the IMDb 2001 FAQ. We'll paste the URL right here, and we'll leave this to auto detect from the page, and then add all. So this shouldn't take too long. There are a few question and answers, and I think many pages that I've tried, almost everyone that I've tried in different formats with this collapse and display that page had, others where it was just in basic text on the screen, they've all managed to be read and parsed and read as a source into the knowledge base. I think I've only come across one so far that has actually struggled with the format of an FAQ web page. But in this case we're just done. Didn't take too long there. We can see it's now listed under sources, and if we click on this, so the great thing with this, we can see there are now 46 question answer pairs, which feels about right from the quick glance at the website. On the left hand side we can actually see those question and answers listed right here, and if we select we get the information on the right. So if we scroll down here, let's say, what are the monoliths? Okay, there's the question, there's the source it came from, and here's the answer with a big block of text. There's quite a lot going on just there. So far so good. We can tweak these if we want. We can edit the answer in this place. We can add new question answer pairs. We can delete any that we don't want in here. So it's totally configurable once we have that information. One other really useful thing is actually able to test the knowledge base within this. Before we get to the stage of building the bot, we can check it at this place. So to do that, we'll go ahead and click on test. It opens up this test pane on the right hand side, and what we can do is type the question just here. So one of them was, is HAL a computer? And pretty quickly it comes back with the answer, the depiction of HAL 9000, so on and so on. Now, after quickly looking at that page, that was the question answer pair. That is what we're expecting. If you scroll down, you can see the full answer. One handy thing here is this inspect option right here. So when you select on this, it gives us a bit more background of why this was selected. So the question was, is HAL a computer? Here are the top answers, the top one being this correct one that we want, and we have a confidence score right here. So 1.00, this goes from 0 to 1, which is really, you could see it almost like a 0 to 100%. So in this case, 100%, completely confident this was the answer. Now the reason for this is because I was using the exact wording of the question. Obviously with users that won't always be the case, but because it was a perfect match, this came back as the answer. Now if we do scroll down, we see other answers that would have taken a second place here. This one presumably because HAL is mentioned a few times, but this is not the correct answer. And we scroll down, we see a much lower confidence score of 0.15 or 15%. So luckily it didn't choose that one. Further down there's another one with an even lower confidence score of 8%. So if we take that as a perfect fit, let's go ahead and close that inspect, and we'll go ahead and ask that same question but a slightly different way. So let's see, HAL is a computer, right? So slightly different wording but the same question. Let's go ahead and ask this. HAL is a computer, right? We do get the correct answer, depiction of HAL 9000. We'll go ahead and inspect, and in here we can see the top answer, but down here the confidence score is lower. We have a 67%, but because of the natural language processing, it did understand what I was asking. It did pair it with the correct answer and had a high but nowhere near perfect score. And again, we can see there are other answers offered further down as well. So in this case, it did come back with the correct thing. Now if we go ahead and do a test again, if we put something nonsensical, let's just hit some keys, we can see that stock answer of no answer found has been returned. So from this very quick smoke testing, we can see that we are getting the answers we expect. This is behaving, this knowledge base, as we'd expect. So we'll go ahead and close down the test pane. Now the next stage is actually to build the bot from this knowledge base. So what we'll do is expand the pane on the left, deploy knowledge base, go to deploy, and you say, sure you want to? Yes, we do. So again, based on these question and answer pairs, 46 or so of them, this shouldn't really take too long. Of course, if you have a bigger knowledge base, you had multiple URLs and documents, and the chit chat question answer pairs. If you had something that was a bit more substantial, you could expect this to take a lot longer to build. But in that case, it really didn't take too long. So the very next thing we want to do is go ahead and create a bot. I'll go ahead and sign in again. All right then. Okay, so now we've got this custom deployment. We've got some more information to add. So let's go down here. So subscription for me is pay as you go. For the resource group, I'll just keep it in the same one that we created for the language service. The resource group location is fine as UK South. The bot handle is absolutely fine. There's a pricing tier here. You can change it. There is a free option as well, but I'll go ahead and keep on the standard plan. For the app ID, I'll just go ahead and create a new one. Let's see. So next up, we'll go to next for the web app. So for the app service, we do have an app name. We've got this auto-generated one, which is fine. I'll just keep it as it is. There's a good option here as well with the SDK language selection. Now, if you wanted to further customize your bot, if you wanted to, you could download the source code for the bot and then make modifications if you need to take it that far. In this case, we won't. We'll just look at the standard bot. But if you did need to do that, you've got a couple of options. You could either get the SDK language in C#, so using .NET, or you could use Node.js and write it in JavaScript. So that's pure personal preference. We're not going to do that. If I was, for me, I would go with C#. Next up, we need an app service plan. I'll go ahead and create a new one. Let's scroll further down. So next up, we've got some app settings. Now, in the app service, these app settings are variables that we pass in as environment variables to the bot code. So first up is the language resource key. So what we can do is if we go back to that language resource, so let's go to the resource group right there. Right, there we go. So if we go to the lang FAQ bot right here, keys and endpoint, what we want to do is get this first key one. So we'll go ahead, let's just show the keys so we can see them right there. I'll go ahead and copy that to the clipboard. And then if I go back to this deployment of the web bot, we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and paste this into the language resource key, so that way they can connect to each other. We have a project name, endpoint host name. I'm just going to leave all these defaults, and same with the service details. All good. Next up, review and create. Okay, we'll go ahead and create that. Okay, again, I've skipped forward just to not waste time. For me, again, that took around 2 minutes as well, so not really too long. So next up, we'll go ahead to the resource group where it's been created. Great, and now we've got everything we need. So we can see we've got the language service, the bot we've created, and it's gone ahead and created things like managed identities and the app service as well. There's plenty going on. Now what we'll do is we'll actually look at the Azure bot itself. For me, this is lang FAQ bot. And what we'll do is looking on this main overview page here. So first up, we can see this get started with the bot framework. And this is the option we talked about earlier. So this is where you can actually download the source code, and you can use an SDK using C# or JavaScript, where you can actually modify that and extend it further if you wish to. Again, that's outside the realm of this demo, but that is an option if you need it. Another option is to test and refine your bot, and that's something that we're going to do in a moment. And also publish to Azure. So this is where you can connect to channels such as the web chat bot, which is what we'll do. Also Microsoft Teams and other things as well, where you can offer this on many different platforms. So first up, we'll go ahead and give it a test. So we'll do test in web chat. And then similar to in the Language Studio, we get this test pane that's popped up, and we know that the bot is ready to go because it gives us this hello and welcome message to start with. So first up, let's ask a question that we asked it before. So is HAL a computer? And after a moment, it gives us the answer. It's given us a kind of a short summary answer as well. But the main answer here is the depiction of HAL 9000, so on and so on. And we know from testing before that is the answer that we expect. So again, if we ask that a slightly different way, so HAL is a computer, right? And let's see, do we get the same answer? Yes, we do. So we can see the same answer has come back. it's understood the question that we've asked it. Again, if we ask something that's not comprehensible, we get the no answer found stock text back, all looking good. Let's go ahead and check the FAQ, ask another question. There we go. What are the monoliths? Monoliths are tools of a highly advanced alien civilization. Okay, so let's go ahead and ask that. So what are the monoliths? And quickly, the monoliths are tools of a highly advanced alien civilization. So we can see again it's come back with the correct answer. So far, so good. Now next up, now that we've given this a test, we're happy with everything. The next thing is to connect it to channels. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead on the left under settings to channels. So we talked previously about many options such as Alexa, this Facebook, Microsoft Teams, and so on. Let's scroll down and check some more of these. Yeah, okay, we've got Skype, Slack, Telegram, and so on, Twilio as well. So lots of options available. But one thing that we'll look at today is the web chat bot. Now, we actually created this as a web bot, so it's gone ahead and by default automatically created a direct line. So we've got a REST API to communicate direct with the bot, but also a web chat, and these are both up and running with a healthy status. So first up, let's take a look at the web chat. It's gone ahead, you can have multiple sites. In this case, it's automatically created a default site, which is absolutely fine. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And here's information on the site. So we can change the name, if it's enabled or not. We've got some secret keys as well for authentication. And very handily, we've got some embedded code here, this HTML snippet, which means we can insert it into a web page. And that's what we're going to do right now. So we'll go ahead. Let me bring across a text editor. We're going to create an amazing web page here. So let's call it my wonderful website. I'll just give it a heading. What have I got? H1. Let's go ahead and save this to the desktop. Should call it index.html. Let's give this a run and open this up. There we go. Look at that. My wonderful website. Fantastic. Okay, so next up what we want to do is get this embedded code right here. So we can handily copy to the clipboard, pop this further down, and what this will do, this will host this web app, this web bot rather, in the web page itself. So we do have an iframe, we've got some sizing, we can see there's a bit to replace here with your secret here. So what we'll do is we'll go right here, secret keys, we can see that's what we have for this one. I'll go ahead and copy and paste. There we go, we've replaced that right there. I've gone ahead and saved this. So if we go back and refresh the page, there we go, we can see this iframe has been added, and we actually have the bot hosted straight away, and we've got the hello and welcome, so it's good to go. So copy and paste job, dead quick, dead easy. We'll go ahead and say is how a computer, let's just see, is this working okay? And there we go, depiction of HAL 9000, so on and so on. So it's quick and easy as that. We've now got the bot, it's hosted in the web page. Obviously through the demo I talked through everything, we took our time, we explained features, but really you've seen how easy it is. If you know what you're doing, you've got the FAQ source all ready to go, this really does take minutes to spin up. Very quick, very easy. Okay, so as we've seen, AI can do some really cool stuff, so can ChatGPT and many other tools as well. But just because we can doesn't always mean we should. Microsoft have got some really good responsible AI resources. These are really good things that get you thinking when you design or come up with a new solution. You know, things about making things inclusive or fair or transparent. And there's some really good articles and tools that they've provided. On the left, there's a few things listed there. This is not the full list, but they do have things like AI fairness checklist, inclusive design guidelines, and a really good thing called the Human AI Experience or HAX toolkit as well. And And running through this are these 6 core principles, which we can see in the main screenshot there. So things like fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. So really important things to think about when considering, is this the right thing to do? What's in the data set, who's represented, who is not. Yeah, really important things to look into. Another nice touch I found as well with the Azure Cognitive Services is that if you're using those services, you do receive service update notification emails. And there's a partial screenshot there of one that I've received previously, and it's really useful to keep you updated to say, hey, this service has been deprecated, or this new service is available, or we have a new guideline which you may find useful. So personally, I think that's a great touch. It's really nice they're being proactive, keeping me up to date, so I'm not having to constantly check in to say what has changed, because these kind of services and offerings from Azure and in the world of AI constantly evolve. So it's yeah, really useful to receive things like that. Also, if this is a subject that is of interest to you, there's a really good 5-minute video Microsoft put up on YouTube, which is how they developed their responsible AI standard. And there's a few interviews there with people who worked on this standard, the things they had to consider and how they went about it. So if this is of interest to you, I'd highly recommend giving 5 minutes to watch that. And as well as the responsible AI guidelines we mentioned previously, there's also an article, really good publication here on responsible bots, and it contains 10 guidelines for developers of conversational AI. And it's really interesting, really gets you thinking, lots of valuable information there. So we won't go through all 10, but there's things here about, again, being transparent that the user is communicating with a bot. It's not a bot pretending to be a human. There's things like making sure the bot treats people fairly and respects their privacy, and also ultimately accepting responsibility for the bot as well, which is always crucial. If you do want to learn any more on these, particularly with Microsoft Azure's offerings, there are a couple of relevant certifications. There's one there, the Azure AI Fundamentals, which is the AI 900 exam, and the Azure AI Engineer Associate, which is the AI 102 exam. And these are good. They go through the services available. Sometimes there are labs with step-by-step instructions on how to build these things, use the services. So yeah, I would highly recommend looking into those. So we've reached the end. If you've got any questions at all, again, I'm always happy to help. Feel free to connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. And thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions at SciFiDevCon. Bye for now.